Good morning, Knicks Nation. Today is Thursday, the 31st day of July, the last day of July 2025. I hope you're all safe and healthy today. Hope your family is safe and healthy and that the needs of you and your family in terms of food, shelter, clothing, as well as health are being met today. Blessings upon those that work in the healthcare field, along with the first responders who every day are doing their best to save lives. Those also that pick up garbage, keep our places clean, and those that make deliveries for our convenience. Double blessings on the men and women out here trying to help rescue, deliver, and recover teenagers and children that are victims of child molestation and pedophilia. People that are also helping those that are victims of pornography and child pornography, prostitution, child prostitution, human trafficking, and sex slavery. Double curses on the perpetrators, the profiteers, and the perverts that create the demand that cause these industries to exist. Finally, double blessings on the homeless. More than 700,000 men, women, children, families, senior citizens, and military veterans homeless in the United States of America. Blessings upon them, for theirs is the kingdom. Today, we're talking about one of the key players of the 25-26 New York Knicks. As we are aware, most of us, that the 25-26 New York Knicks, the expectation is championship. That's the expectation. So when you're in the expectation of championship, nothing less than finals are a success. At least you're going to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. It's expected. But what's expected is to take that next step to get to the finals. So finals is the goal this year. That's a big goal. That's a goal for a team that is a winner. That's a goal for a team that has talent. That's a goal for a team that people can look at and say, okay, long-term sustainable winner. That's the Knicks right now. So the Knicks have come from being a laughing stock, making stupid trades, hiring dumb coaches, having incompetent management, to now being expected to be a contender for the championship. A long way has Leon Rose brought the Knicks. A long way has James Dolan brought the Knicks. And now the Knicks are on the cusp of championship contention. Part of that is, of course, getting the right players. They've hired a coach in Mike Brown to accomplish this goal. Some may agree, some may not agree, but it's irrelevant right now. He is the coach. And so in this, we are looking at what it's going to look like under Mike Brown in the first year. Now, I went back 2 seasons because this past season was the first season with the guy we're talking about today, Karl-Anthony Towns, Cat, El Gato Grande, that guy. We're talking about him today in terms of his importance and his role within what we're looking at as a championship season. The year before Karl-Anthony Towns came to the Knicks were 7th in offensive rating. Very good, top 10, 7th. They were 10th in defensive rating, and their net rating was 5th in the NBA. They were last in pace, which shows you what type of team you're dealing with. When you have a slow pace, you're dealing with a half-court team. And when you're dealing with 2 players such as Julius Randle at the time and Jalen Brunson, you're dealing with half-court players. These are not guys that are adept at running fast breaks and being opportunistic on the break. They are more adept at setting up in the half court and setting up plays that end up being mismatches against the opponent. So there's no one guy in the NBA that could guard Jalen Brunson. So therefore, you have to get him in mismatches. And the Knicks did that very successfully. That year, they finished with 50 wins. They finished 2nd in the East. And they lost in the semifinals in 7 games to the Indiana Pacers. So that was that season. Then this past season, we trade Julius Randle, we trade Dante DiVincenzo, and we acquire Karl-Anthony Towns. The first season together in New York, last year they won 50. The year before that, they won 50 games, finished 2nd in the East. This time they won 51 games and finished 3rd in the East. This is the first year with Karl-Anthony Towns, and whereas prior we saw the defensive rating top 10, this past season it was 14th, which falls into the middle of the pack. And then, of course, the offensive rating, as you would expect, was 5th, and the net rating was 8th. two Tom Thibodeau hallmarks. Okay, so and they were a little bit better in pace. They went up to 26. It wasn't really much of a significant difference, but you expect with two weak defenders. The thing about Julius Randle is that once he's committed, which he did under Tom Thibodeau, to playing defense more consistently, then you're going to have a better overall team, because now your only weak defender is really Jalen Brunson. Okay, so that was the situation Julius Randle's last year here. Now you still have two weak defenders in Karl-Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson. So you can expect a weakness on the defensive side of the floor, which we saw here in the net rating being 14th, from being top 10 to being 14th. The year before that, it was 10th. Then last year, it was 14th. So you sort of slipped. So the question is, how is Mike Brown going to help improve a defense with two weak players? Very difficult when you have two weak defenders on the floor at the same time. We're looking at the champion Oklahoma City Thunder. There was not two weak defenders on the floor at the same time. In fact, all five of their starters were strong defenders. Plus, you had a guy that was a legit superstar and now MVP in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And that's typically what you want, typically what you need in the championship team. When the Celtics won the championship, the weakest defender was usually one-on-one with Kristaps Porzingis. That was your weakest defender, okay? And even he was a great help defender. So it's very difficult to win a championship in the league with two weak defenders in your starting five. The bench unit for the Knicks, that's not a problem, because you're dealing with Josh Hart, you're dealing with Deuce McBride, you're dealing with Hoop Portier. Yes, you got one in Jordan Clarkson, obviously. And then if you sign either DeLon Wright or Landry Shamet, again, you don't have but one weak defender coming off the bench. But you got two here, okay? Now, how can you fix that? Well, what you want to do is you want to try, which the Knicks do, is keep Brunson guarding people that are perimeter people. There are people that will stay on the three-point line as the outlet for the open catch and shoot three. You want Brunson on that guy as much as possible. But what teams do is they are expert in the league at switching and causing mismatches that end up with Brunson in the mid post with a bigger, stronger guy that can, score on him that he cannot guard. And so that's what you want to avoid. But then you got Karl-Anthony Towns. And Towns, what they were doing, which is what Indiana did to beat the Knicks, is cause Towns to be in a pick and roll situation on the defensive end of the floor. He's not quite as bad as Enes Kanter was, who was probably the worst defensive center on a pick and roll I've ever seen in the NBA. Enes Kanter, terrible. Towns is not as bad. And the reason is because Kanter had feet that looked like they were stuck to the floor. While Towns has big feet, he's nimble. And he shows this on the offensive end. He's nimble. And if he uses that agility defensively, it will help us a lot. So last year against Indiana, Halliburton was getting in a pick and roll situation with Towns. Towns wasn't switching. Towns would stay put or be lost in space. And that either of those situations caused Halliburton to have a free reign into the lane and was killing us with the floater game in the playoffs. Teams would do that. In the NBA, it's like a jungle. And the strong animals look for hunting of the weak ones. Okay? And that's how they look at it. So Towns was the weakness there. And so that's how they would exploit it. And they're going to do the same thing this year. So how do you deal with that? How do you deal with that at all? Well, I don't know really, except to know that Towns has to back up. And he has to play the guy rolling to the basket, whether it's the guard or the center. He has to roll with that. He will get stuck out in the perimeter and kind of a no man's land, not committing to the shooter, not committing to the driver, and leaving both open. If you have him back up, you're giving somebody And last year it was Derek White, if you recall, open look, or Aaron Nesmith, and they were killing us in the playoffs. Now the Knicks overcame the Celtics at the end. They did. But it's very difficult with a weak link like Towns on the floor. So that's a problem. And it's a problem you can't sit him. He is the best offensive five in basketball. Period. Okay? So you can't sit him. And you're paying him $53 million this year. So you can't sit him. So you have to figure a way where he can successfully defend the pick and roll. Now, when you have Brunson, for his credit, he does get attacked, obviously. They will go at him and try to get him. What they want is to get him in a mid-post or a post position against a guy that's going to overwhelm him. And that's what happens. He gets beat like that several times every game. It's expected. This is the league, and that's what happens. What you want to do is mitigate that or reduce those opportunities as much as possible so that you get a chance to stay in the game and win, right? So you have that. But for his credit, Brunson will fight through screens on a pick and roll. He will fight through screens and try to stay with his man on a pick and roll. He does that very consistently. In fact, during the course of the playoffs last year, it was a little disappointing that the referees were calling him for fouls on those plays in the playoffs when it's more aggressive in general. So that wasn't Brunson's fault. But Brunson is the weakest guy to play with Towns on the pick and roll, and he fights through the screens. So if that's the case, you need two things. You need Brunson to fight through the screens, which he does. If he still gets beat, which is possible, which definitely happens, you need to have another guy step up, which is going to leave a corner shooter open generally. Okay? And that's always going to be a problem. The corner three is the highest percentage three on the floor, and everybody puts their best spot up shooter in that position. Every team does. So that is going to be a problem. And then you have to have fast recovery. So this is where, for example, you get a guy like a Halliburton gets past Brunson and Towns on a pick and roll. And he's somebody like McCall or somebody like OG or somebody like Hart or Deuce. They step up to guard that guy. That guy finds Nesmith or somebody else in the corner. And that shot is going up. So now what you need is you need to have another guy step into that corner guy. And then that means that the three-quarter side three is open. You're going to have to give him that. Okay? But you got to hope that the guy that's shooting that is their weaker shooter. It's a tough situation to be in, which is why I say in the beginning, it's very difficult to win a championship with two weak defenders in your starting five. One you could deal with, especially if it's Brunson, who fights through screens, who takes charges, and you could deal with that. But with Towns, when your big man is a weak defender, it becomes difficult, which is why you're hearing talk of Mitchell Robinson starting with Karl-Anthony Towns. If Mitchell Robinson starts with him, Towns could play up more. Towns could go out on top, go over the top for the shooters, and then you still have Mitch Rob behind you, which is giving you a better chance. And Mitchell Robinson, of course, is elite at not only stepping up to defend the paint, but getting out to the three-point shooter at the same time. See, this is the thing. In the league today, the elite defenses have two character traits that they want. It's not muscle. It's not you're too weak. It's length and speed, which means you have the length to guard and you have the speed, the quickness to get to spots where shooters might be open. And you can do it on the same play, which Mitchell Robinson showed against the Celtics, where everybody saw he comes down, he guards his man, he guards another man, he gets to the corner and takes the ball away from the shooter. That's elite. And that's why you might see him starting with Karl-Anthony Towns. People are calling for Deuce to start. I understand it. Deuce is, in fact, with Karl-Anthony Towns, the best combination in Knicks, one of the best combination they have. Towns plays best offensively when he plays with guys that move well without the ball. He's a tremendous passer. So if he has the ball, he's going to draw two defenders all the time because he's an offensively gifted player, one of the most offensively gifted players in the NBA. So he's going to draw two defenders, and he knows this, and he's very good at finding cutters. So if you play Towns with guys like Deuce or Hart or Mikal Bridges that run without the basketball, you're going to create all kinds of offensive opportunities. So what you got to do, though, again, is figure out how you're going to help him so that he doesn't hurt you defensively. Now, during the course of the season, Towns is +6 when he's on the floor. So whatever his defensive liabilities are, you end up +6 with him on the floor. In the playoffs, he was -2. And part of that is getting used to playing. Tibbs switched up his flow by putting Mitch Rob in the starting lineup. And it takes time. That's why Tibbs didn't like to do that, and I understood that. He didn't like to change his lineups at the end of the season. That hurts your team. Unless it works really well, it works really badly. It doesn't work at all, see? So that was hurting Towns a bit. But if you start the season like that, and you stick with that, that's why you don't really want to make a whole bunch of people are always advocating changes to the lineup anytime they don't like something. If you want to remember how that works, just remember David Fisdale, who ran about 20 different lineups in a season where we won maybe 17 games. That hurts your team. It's better, even if you don't like the lineup, to stick with one. That they learn to work together, they understand each other, they know what minutes they're going to play, and stick with that. It's better for your efficiency as a team. So you don't want to have to change it, which the Knicks did when Mitch Rob came back. They put him in the starting lineup, and it's an adjustment. Now, if you're going to start him, you start him, and you stick with it, okay? Unless it's a complete disaster like Kemba Walker was with Evan Fournier, then you have to do something, right? Because your defense is suffering. But that's the point of bringing Mitchell Robinson into the starting lineup. Mitchell Robinson is not no offensive juggernaut, but he is an offensive rebounding monster. So they have to account for him. They have to account for Towns. Trying to account for them two with Jalen Brunson is almost an impossible task. Defensively, my man Mitch Rob knows how to stake his claim. I call it staking your claim. That means when the ball is getting ready to go up, you stake out pieces of real estate on that floor, and that's your real estate, and nobody takes it. That's Mitch Rob. Plus the quickness, plus the length. So you have all of that working for you on the defensive end of the floor. We need some effort, though, from Karl-Anthony Towns, which OG Anunoby was expressing to him on the sidelines, as many of us saw this past season. We need him to give effort defensively, which is why I feel like Perk said he needs to lose weight. Part of his lack of effort was carrying extra weight. Losing weight would help him effort-wise, quickness-wise, and it preserves his knee, which we saw almost all last year. It's a chronic issue, which means it's always going to be there. It's never going to go away, okay? So what you want to do is mitigate the negativity of that chronic knee problem. Losing weight would help that a lot. So he will be able to mitigate that. So you really are trying to get him to be quicker, more active defensively. He's still a weak defender, but if he can become more active defensively, that would be good. This is not atypical. In other words, when you got gifted basketball players like Karl-Anthony Towns that have been gifted most of their life, from when they were 12 years old, they've been dominating everybody they play against. They're not used to playing defense on a high level. They're not. There are other players that have to scrape and scrap their whole life in basketball, and they're used to that, like Deuce. They're used to that. They come into the league knowing this is what they got to do, and they do it. But a guy that's been as gifted as Towns or Randall, you're not used to having to put that kind of effort out. You're used to winning without playing defense. But that's in every level but the league. You got to play defense to win the chip in the NBA. So how are we going to do this? He's got to lose weight. He's got to put more effort in. He's got to, be able to step up on the pick and roll. They're going to attack him on the pick and roll. That's where he's weakest. You got to have Mitchell Robinson out there with him. And I think that's what they're going to do. That's why they signed Yabusele. Yabusele is backup power forward. So you can start Towns at the 4 with Mitchell Robinson. When you take Mitchell Robinson out, you can move Towns to the 5 with Yabusele. Okay, so now you got another guy coming in that can play defense and that's physical. Okay, so that's going to be the key here. Offensively, we got nothing to worry about. I mean, really, there's no problem offensively. There's no worry about whatever scheme they run. Karl-Anthony Towns is going to be successful, regardless of the scheme they run. He is so good offensively. He can put the ball on the floor. He can post up. He can shoot threes. He can hit foul shots. There's nothing he cannot do offensively. Nothing. So we don't have a problem with Karl-Anthony Towns offensively, no matter almost what Brown runs. But the thing is, what you want, though, is, again, Towns is at his, to me, most effective when he's playing with guys that like to move without the basketball, because he will find you. Okay, he didn't just put his head down all the time, but doesn't see nobody else like Julius Randle do. No, he sees the floor, and he loves to create a Magic Johnson-like pass. He likes that stuff. So you get him in the position while having a lot of offensive off-ball body movement, which is a la Golden State Warriors. I've never seen anybody do that as well as Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr's offense is so tricky. He has so much off-ball movement, and he's very sneaky. They hide very well what they're getting ready to break out on you until you react too late to it. Very good. If Mike Brown could get a little bit of that, the Knicks are going to be an offensive juggernaut. We just don't want them depending on that, because while Golden State could do that, Golden State wins championships with defense. Okay, Draymond Green, when Klay Thompson was in his prime in there, Klay Thompson, the only weak defender was Stephen Curry. Everybody else was top-notch defense. So that's why they could, win championships. Well, we got two guys, and we need Towns to step up. Brunson, I'm not mentioning him as much in this video. We're going to do a video on Brunson, but the thing is, he gives effort. Okay, he's giving his body up. His limitations defensively have to do with his size, his lack of foot speed, things like that. But his lack of length, that's where his limitations come. But it's not because he doesn't try. It's not because he's not paying attention. With Towns, it's different. We got to get him to put effort in. We got to get him to pay attention. We got to get him to not worry as much offensively, which is why you need schemes where he doesn't have to work as hard. If he's passing the ball, he's not working as hard. If he doesn't have to fight against double teams, he's not working as hard, and he can put more effort on the defensive end of the floor, which is where you need him. We want to win a chip. You got to get stops. No defense, no bueno. The team that gets the most stops is a team that wins. Okay, and that's what we want from the Knicks. Now, we got multiple really high-level defenders. Okay, again, starting lineup of Mikal Bridges and OG. Okay, you good right there. You start them. You put Mitchell Robinson or Deuce out there. You good. Josh Hart, you good. Yabusele, you good. Hook Porter, you good. Now, Jordan Clarkson's another weak one, but you're going to have him in second units with defensive players around him. So we're going to be good that way. We're going to have a lot of great defenders. It's going to be a successful season for the Knicks, but in terms of win and loss. But we're looking for the chip. So the critical thing is, how can Towns help us defensively? Again, offensively is not a problem, but you don't win chips by just outscoring people all the time. He who gets the most stops wins, and you need 3 stops. Everybody now knows what I've been saying for years. You need 3 stop sequences. The more, the merrier. The more 3 stop sequences you get in the league, the more games you will win. And they need that coming up. And that's why I really feel like Mike Brown understands this. And Mike Brown is going to focus on the defensive side of the floor to make sure that he does everything he can with schemes and lineups and everything to get the best out of the defensive side of the floor that the Knicks can get. And we'll see. We're going to have to see what happens. People focus always. The default focus is offense. That's not a problem. The default focus should be defense. How do we stop people? How do we get 3 stops in a row? What do we need to do to get that? That's what the focus should be. With Karl-Anthony Towns, that should be the focus. Again, there's not going to be a problem offensively. Here's a guy, look, last year, 58% from the field, 83% from the line, 42% from 3. For 24 points and 13 rebounds a game. You're not worried about offense with this guy. You're not worried about it at all. You're going to score. With Jalen Brunson, you're going to score. No problem. Okay? Defense, though. How are we going to get defense? Now, during the course of the season, 82-game grind, the Knicks going to do good. It's not the season we're worried about. It's the playoffs. Okay? Because in the playoffs, that's where this is extremely important. So we'll see. We'll see how this works out. I expect him to start Mitchell Robinson because of the weakness of Karl-Anthony Towns defensively. But we'll see how this works out. Anyway, y'all enjoy your Thursday. Be safe out there and stay cool if you're in Florida. It's been 100 degrees every day, 117 a couple of times. Enjoy it. Stay cool. Be safe. Sure.